Before we discuss Kepa, I'm going to read out a few stats. Worst save percentage from last season for Premier League keepers that played a minimum of 10 games. Adrian had a 63% percentage save. Jordan Pickford, a 62.7. Pepe Reina, 62.3. Angus Gunn, 54.6. And the worst was Kepa Arrizabalaga, 53.5. On top of that, he's been accused of failing to deal with set pieces. In fact, it was against Liverpool where we could hear his teammates screaming his name when they conceded a goal. It just exasperated. There was one also that flew over the crossbar. He was dropped twice last season for Willy Caballero by Frank Lampard. And 19 goals he's conceded from outside the box since he joined. 19. That includes what happened against Brighton. So, when I factor in all of that, Scott, should he go? Should he leave the club or at least be benched? Should Chelsea definitively go out and buy a new keeper? And by all accounts, they already have Mendy and it'll be announced in the next few days.
One thing I know now, Adam, is that you're not his agent.
I'm just throwing out stats. That's all I do.
Oh, you're doing the facts. I know.
Yes.
Listen, I said the mistake he made today, for me, any keeper could make that mistake, you know, by trying to play it out. Was it a lack of confidence? It's a good question. Not quite sure. But any keeper can make that type of mistake. The stats that you've read out tells you more about the goalkeeper he is and has been over the last season, 2 seasons, since his arrival at Chelsea. I said at the start of the show that if you'd asked me at the end of last season, if Chelsea could only make one signing, what position would it be? I would have said goalkeeper. I am surprised, just like Gary has said, it's taken this long, 2 games into the season. I'm not saying Chelsea lost today because of him, but you do not want to be getting too far behind Liverpool and Manchester City if you at least want to try and get towards winning the title, which I still feel is going to be too much. But look, those saves, I think the basics, fundamentals of a goalkeeper should be shot stopping. I mean, that should be the basics. And the rest is, right, okay, does he come out for crosses? Does he give his defence confidence? Can he play nowadays with his feet? He can't do the basics at the moment, or the basics at the moment, he's lacking so much in confidence, he's not making these saves that he should be saving. Those stats are very, very damning. And it just might be that, look, it doesn't make him a bad goalkeeper, but sometimes you just have to say, this move is not working. Someone else clearly is going to come in, and I'll be very surprised if it's not this week coming. And then he, for me, has got to go out somewhere else. Even if it's out on loan, he cannot be sitting on the bench stewing at Stamford Bridge. He has to be playing and rebuilding his confidence.
Gary, you are very much an optimist. You view the glass as always half full, never half empty. You usually defend players, managers, whoever it might be, to the hilt. But in this situation, what do you say?
I think a bold decision has to be made, and that is to make a change between the posts at Chelsea. I think they have to, well, how do you move Kepa out? You know, he's still got a long contract. He came for a huge amount of money. Can you afford to have him as your number 2? But I think they need they do need a better goalkeeper than Kepa. I think he's had long enough. I think I'm right in saying this would be his 3rd season at the club.
Correct.
Is that correct, Adam? Yeah?
Yes.
So he's had long enough to settle in my opinion. It's not that he hasn't been given a chance. I was talking to a goalkeeping coach friend of mine in the last couple of days, and I think we have to accept that the goalkeeper is a unique position. You only have one goalkeeper on the park, don't you? You have 4 defenders or 3 defenders, 4 in midfield, 2 up front, 3 up front, whatever. You have one goalkeeper. And it is very much a specialist position. Clubs invariably, well, they do have a goalkeeping coach. Simple as that. How many clubs have a defensive coach or a forward coach? Maybe a few now, but not really. And this goalkeeping coach was saying to me that in his opinion, Kepa has this habit of having his hands slightly too low, and when the shot is about to come or the strike goalward, he tends to move his hands and arms backwards, which then allows him to swing them forward to get extra spring and leverage. But in his opinion, the time it takes to move his arms back and then launch, he actually is then at a disadvantage, and he never makes that back up with the additional spring. Now, that sounds reasonably technical, and I've tried to explain it as clearly as I can. But what he's saying is his technique is not up to standard.
Isn't that the coach's role, though? Isn't Hilario still there?
Well, of course, but, you know, habits are formed from very early days. And I don't know who, you know, Kepa Arrizabalaga was working with in his younger formative years. And maybe back then it was still good enough. But now he's playing at a very, very elite level. And again, I reference his goalkeeping coach, who believes that his technique is wrong, and it will be very difficult for him to change that programmed habit.
Well, obviously they were linked to some big names for goalkeepers. Oblak of Atletico Madrid being the most obvious, but also the price tag he has is very hefty. So it doesn't look like it's going to go that way. It'll be more Edouard Mendy who's playing at Reims. Now, if we compare the two, Scott, do you feel that he's ready to step up to an elite level club like Chelsea, Champions League football? I should add, and I don't think anyone's really said this yet for some reason, this is the same club where they bought Petr Cech from.
Yeah.
So there's been a history.
I think that, yeah, honestly, we can look at stats. We can look at what Kepa's done or not done at Chelsea. We can look at what Mendy's doing in Ligue 1. We won't really know until he steps into the Premier League. So therefore, what are you needing? Like any good recruitment, you need someone who knows what they're talking about. Now, as I said before, Petr Cech is the guy who's helping with recruitment. What better person than him? I do hope he's not kind of so loyal to Rennes himself, the fact that he was there back in the day and he made the step and it went really well, that he's thinking that everyone can do that, or that someone needs that faith. He needs to be able to see. I think Gary very expertly and cleverly explained the technical situation. On a goalkeeper, I don't know much about the technique, and you do normally speak to goalkeepers about other goalkeepers in that sense. What I'm looking for in a goalkeeper is a presence. It's a presence as a fullback myself, someone who's going to step in and say, do you know what, first of all, he's confident enough to fill the sticks. Second of all, his technique is good enough. And third of all, he gives you that type of confidence that actually, if he's coming out for a cross, even a couple of times today, I don't want to have a go at Kepa for that second goal, but even a couple of times today, he came out for crosses, and one time he flapped it a bit, another time he came out and didn't quite make it. You know, they're the moments where you say that's going to be a top-class goalkeeper or not. For me, mentally, it's the most individual position on the pitch. You almost have to be crazy to be a goalkeeper, because you might not touch the ball for 20 minutes and then you make a mistake and then you might not touch the ball for another 20 minutes, and all the things that's going through your head, you've got to try and fight those demons off and then be ready for the next one. It just seems to me that Kepa is in a place now where he needs to be taken out the firing line for his sake, but also for Chelsea's sake. And this Edouard Mendy, I just hope that Petr Cech will be saying, I've seen this talent and I know what he can do, because I'll be totally honest with you, I genuinely do not know if he's going to step into the Chelsea first team and be superb.
But I'm not sure if you've actually watched him or watched him in depth. Does he have the presence that you speak of? Because sometimes a keeper doesn't have to come from a big, famous club. Look at Peter Schmeichel. He came from Brøndby, not exactly a European powerhouse, but he would go on to be Manchester United or one of their greatest ever goalkeepers effectively straight away. When you've seen Mendy, does he strike you as someone that has that presence, something which Alisson brought to Liverpool?
Something which Petr Cech brought to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. You know, that's something. Yes, he shows that he can, but you know, it's a difference between showing potential and actually being in that hot seat, as it were. And you know, so that's why I'm saying I've not seen enough of him to say yes, he's going to be an absolute star, and without a doubt, he's going to be the right man and the next Chelsea goalkeeper for 10 years. I'm relying on Petr Cech to say, do you know what? Yeah, for example, I've seen enough of Timo Werner. in a Chelsea shirt to say, yes, he's going to be able to do it. Kai Havertz, we'll wait and see. Again, 2 games in, don't want to judge at the moment, but he will need to step it up and he'll know that as well. In terms of Edouard Mendy, again, I'm saying it again, I'm not trying to sit on the fence or pass the buck. We have to rely on Petr Cech, that he knows what he's talking about. What I've seen of him, he has the presence, but we shall wait and see whether he actually does.
Speaking of goalkeepers, I found this interesting. A lot of criticism has come, Kepa,